be good to go. Just gotta get a couple things cleared up here. Good to go. Good to go. All right. Let's see what we want to get underway today. I'm pretty happy overall with our little Hobbit here. We've got some pretty good contrast coming into his pants and his vest. Oddly enough, I was just playing around with placeholders for these colors and super happy with how it's coming out. So I could continue to fuss over his skin tones, and I definitely should, especially in his legs. So maybe we'll start there, and then we'll work into the rest of his jacket, and most certainly into the backpack. Yeah. I need to settle on what I want the lapel to be. I'm thinking I may just make it a darker leather, but I'm not sold on that idea. Either way, it needs to get settled on. Good morning, Baz. Baz says, "Hey, buddy, how are you today, sir?" Just kind of going through my head what I want to see happen. I'll also tidy up where I oversprayed when I tidied up his hair. That step, you run the risk of, over-claiming some of the areas around it just a little, but man, it smoothed everything out, huh? Let's add this light to the mix. A little better. Baz says, "I'm good, just popping in to say hello, chill with you for 5. Okay, thank you so much. What color should his eyes be? What do you think? I'm thinking... I don't know what I'm thinking. Toss my phone in here. Think for sure. Let me get a little bit more paint on my brush here. I'm just gonna take my lining color, this nice dark tone, and we'll just darken in these eye sockets here very carefully. Why would this be the first thing I'd want to do in the morning? First paint. Let's dot in his eye. And this paint needs a little more water in it. It's not coming off the brush too quick. A little tacky from sitting in the palette. Since what? When did we start this? Wednesday? No, Thursday. Here's the pro tip. Do it in 2 halves. little bit more water on here. Like whenever I'm doing my lining or in a situation like this, I need my paint to come off the brush a little. So it's not like I'm thinning the paint, but it definitely needs to be able to be at a working state. Alright, I think those are now dark enough to actually be painted in at some point. He has, I mean, they even sculpted his eyelid. A little fuzzy on me here. Sorry about this. Yeah, I'm crouching pretty hard here. A little more paint. Okay. Maybe at some point here we can look up what color the different hobbits had in their eyes. Probably blue. It's a very popular color. Looks good, you know. What were we working on here? Get my bigger brush. A little bit of water on the palette here. Excuse me. Reactivate some of these skin tones we're working on. Baz says, I've got to go, buddy. I'll try and be back on later to watch if you're still on. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you stopped through. Might be a little bit too dramatic a change. Yeah, it probably looks a little better. Here I'm also erasing a bit of the dark lining that I started. Let's see. Come back this way a little bit and we'll continue to work on his little hobbit foot here. I don't know how I want to attack his little toes just yet, because the hobbit feet are kind of essential to the like, I don't know, their identity, so to speak. It's not just like it's a little shoe I can ignore. Like, ordinarily with a boot, I like to put some dark brown on it and make it look like it's not even there. But on a little hobbit, you kind of, people want to look at their feet because they're a hobbit. I don't know. They have the big old feet. see here. Just continue to get in here. Continue to smooth these out here. And when I did my lines, I was kind of nondescript with them, but now we want to come up pretty much as close to our paint line as we can without erasing that line. One of those kind of black magic tricks to have that dark line in there still. Yeah, we got pretty good coverage there too. Get around his toes. Little lines. I think that'll look nice for a little Hobbit. I learned a bunch about skin tones in the past couple of days, just from trying to push myself to do them. Let's see here. And I think we tidied up that dark line as well. We gotta get it on this side. We'll get it. Yeah, we'll get this here. Slow and steady goes there. It's an odd angle to paint his little heel. Well, it's a good way to do this on the camera. Truthfully, I don't think it's a good way to do it. Period. Here we're a little bit more translucent because it got a little more water. So now I'm going to put a little bit of that in here with this ankle. It'll allow some of that dark tone from the previous layer to show through, but also blend a little into this lighter tone that we're laying in for his calves and backs of his heel, and those areas. Get his little toesies here. Yeah, that came together surprisingly fast. Let's try to erase a little bit more of this line right here. And we may need to return a little bit of it over on this side. Just a little bit. It's a fine line between almost erased and totally gone. And I am flirting with it. Oh, that's why it's messing with me, because it hooks up in. DC says, morning, Chris. Well, good morning to you. How are you now? We're just tidying up a couple colors here. How was your Friday? Smooth out a couple of these darker areas. I think that does it for his pants. DC says, I'm doing good, thank you. Just painting away. How are you? Pretty good. Got up, got the fire rolling, got some coffee. Might be getting a new desk. Making a mess. Yeah, I think it might be time to tidy up this. Oh yeah, there we go. Just grabbing the same white that I've used on his hair. I'm going to tidy up where once I got done laying in the volumes of his face, I hit him with a quick airbrushing, and I was too lazy to mask off his hair or around his lapel. I'm really not happy with the lapel, so it was like one of those things where I kind of wanted it to get messed up, kind of push the issue for me. But the hair I should have definitely masked off a little. But I believe that is what it is. We'll just fix it right up. If you don't do the work up front, you're going to do it on the back end. Here we go with that. All that overspray out of his head. That didn't do much, did it? I possibly still have some skin tone in my brush. DC says, new desk sounds exciting. It is kind of exciting. We got, DCL says, Bilbo looking good. I think he's coming together all right. Once I get this flesh tone out of his hair, he'll be looking a whole heck of a lot better. We got Clan Wolf in the house says, do you not sleep? I do sleep. I slept from 11 to 5 this morning. Don't get lazy. Mask off your models. That's the lesson of the day. Technically, we learned that lesson yesterday. Today, we're just paying a bill. How are you today, Clan Wolf? DC says, I'm loving the purples and reds on his waistcoat. That waistcoat came out way better. And that's no fuss. That was just I laid the colors in. But I think I'm getting comfortable with this blend. Like, I don't know what it is, but I'm obsessed with this purple maroon blending that's going on. And I've done it a handful of times through recent projects in a couple of different ways. And each time I think I get... Well, it's putting in the hours, right? I'm getting more efficient with it. And I'm starting to get a better result. I can't... if I had labored over these highlights, I wouldn't have hit it. But because I did it wet, and then I took my highlight color already on my palette, and I just laid them in, and let it all dry, I think that's the trick. Like, truly Bob Ross it. Just lay it down where you want it and ignore it. Do not labor over it. If it doesn't come out the way you thought it should... you maybe didn't have it correct, or you did it wrong, and you learn your lesson on the next one. But do not fuss. Well, I'm waiting on that to dry, because it's going to need another coat to cover it up. Clem says, I'm fine just waking up. Yeah, are we all? I'll be doing that till about 3 p.m., you know? And I'll be ready for a nap after I eat. What do you think? A little bit of highlights along the part here. Clan Wolf, have I shown you the Space Marine Army I'm working on? I have a local that I do some painting for. They're all those maroon and purple sniper cloaks I was doing. I believe you were around when I was sharing those, but it's been a little while since I've actually picked them up to work on them. There's little highlights there. That'll really make it pop. Delph says, nope, we got Sir Gerald. Is that how? Geralt. Sir Gerald, welcome. How are you today? Well, Clan Wolf, since you were asking about some Space Marine stuff the other day, I might as well show some of the sniper cloaks I was working on. Try to get a couple of the different... Oh no! Anybody wants to see me cry? Chipping that guy would do it. That would do it. Baz is back! Parcels have arrived! Yes. I believe... Yeah, there's all 3 different styles. And Gerald says, just fine, thanks. Well, glad you stopped by. How are you today? Here are some of the Marines. The gentleman wanted... Ooh, that's better focus. Quite a bit of verdigris. The idea, working up the story that this is like armor of an ancient order that had been set aside as a statue, memorialized some great chapter left sitting, and these guys picked them up and decided to wear their colors into a future combat. So Gerald says, how did you start learning how to do miniatures? And Clem says, lovely cloaks. Others look stunning. I dig the verdigris a lot. I think The client wanted a neutral tone so that they could sort of meta hop. They wanted to play their own chapter, but financially to buy Space Marine chapter, Space Marine chapter, Space Marine chapter was daunting. I'm very happy with the cloaks. I think they're coming out all right. They're not highlighted. Same thing as that vest. I just kind of slopped them in and let them dry. And I think that's the way to do it with an army. Something that's going to get handled. I had one of these that I was really happy with the verdigris. And then I will answer you, Sir Gerald. I got into miniatures when I was younger, but I never really painted. His shoulder pad still needs quite a bit of love. When I was younger, I got into miniatures, and then when I got older, I'm 33 now, and a lot of my friends they have lives, they've got families, and we don't get around or get together as much or get to go out and play as much, and I have this mountain of shame sitting in my my house of just gray models, and so I just kind of started painting. And years ago there wasn't a ton of people on YouTube doing tutorials or Patreon to show you how to paint things, and so we didn't know. And I wasn't really into it as a hobby. But now there is a lot of that, and it has been wonderful to go through and watch other great artists do their work and learn a little bit. And that's really what got me into painting. Got some D&D models. If you like, I can give you a quick run through what I have here on my desk, projects I've been working on, recent commissions, so forth. Here I will link, paste, there you go. There's my Instagram with some of my recent work for sure. And I have these fun little, so we got the Hobbit for sure, which we've been working on today. And we're going to try to wrap up a couple of his little accessories. Skin tones terrify me. They scare me quite a bit, and so I avoid them, and when I do them, I don't try to do anything nice. So this was a reason for me to try to practice to actually do the work. And I have a whole plan for this guy, but to launch into that might take a bit. We're going to make him, because he is a vampire, we're going to make him more malefic. To paint things to look dead, they have a lot more blue in them, a little purple. Purple would be their lively color, where blue would be extra dead. And so we're going to do that in his shadows, and we're going to make him look a little bit alive in the light, which is where we're at here. Baz said, just seen that frog, dude, love it. He's coming up right about next. So I have these fun miniatures from Dark Sword, and they're from the 1980s, not from the 1980s Disney movie, but they're definitely made in light of that. They are little critters of Robin Hood and King Richard the Lionheart. Various stages of work in progress, mind you. You can see Robin's quite a bit more done. I recently popped the show on because of Disney Plus. It's like, oh, let's take a look at this. And how to Ludi, or what do they say, Luda? They have this. Oh, there's an expression. It's going to drive me nuts if I can't remember it. But his hat's actually yellow. I had forgot that over the years, so we're going to try to get him a little yellow hat soon. And then there's Friar Tuck, imagined as a toad. And one of the guys from my local shop is a huge Chrono Trigger fan. And so he's kind of told me from the moment I started his robes, before I ever even made him green, he was like, that's going to be mine. And so I think Brode has a home here. Well, not here, but I'm going to have to get another one. I'm still very much not happy with his eyes. Because his eye looks cool here, but when I turn it, I don't know, it just loses its shape. And this eye here, same thing. He looks, well, he's a little shiny with the light, but looks good from this angle, but I don't think either of them look great head on. I gotta stop fussing. I'm pretty happy with them, truthfully. It's like, it's one of those things where I know for whatever reason, when you paint them, you don't sit and think, oh man, I love the greens that I picked, and I think I got that really smooth. When it looks good, you ignore it. Okay, so like I don't look at the robe and I don't look at his skin. I look at like, I obsess over the white area. I'm like, oh, this tanker came out really well. Then I stop looking at it and I start to look at like the wrap on the sword and the little pouch bag down here he has for his coin and things like that. Painting is, I don't know, there's like a little gremlin in there that says negative things about everything that you do. But overwhelmingly, I think it's nice to start to see like a little trio like these guys. And as I work on them, I'm thinking things like, oh, I wonder if I should do a little light source. And because I don't have them, there's also a Little John, and maybe I would have Robin and Little John over here, and they would be training, and I could put them on like a block of wood like this. And we could have like Robin would be over here and Little John, and they'd be, training for some combat, and we could have a campfire over here, and maybe King Richard would be over here, and then I could do a light source where the flames would be hitting him. And I think that developing that little narrative helps with like the potential boredom of sitting there and obsessing over like little fabrics, because there's no shortcuts in the little dashes and lines you have to make. But yeah, long answer to a short question. My friends can't get together as often, and my paints are always here for me. I got into Twitch as a way of sort of peer accountability. Like if I come in here and I say, "Oh, I'm gonna paint for sure," and I set myself a schedule, then I will hold to it. Sir Gerald says, "Thanks for the link. Great projects you have." Done following you on Instagram. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you stopped in. Do you yourself paint? We got Mr. Shy in here, says bromatic_Chris. How are you now, Shy? What's that? We're wiggling. I overpainted his hair a little bit, and so I'm trying to get the skin tone out of it, which is going to take my whole life. It's actually going a lot smoother than I expected. But that's one of those prices you can either pay up front when you take the time to mask off your model, or you can be too lazy to do it then, and you can take 2, 3, 4 times as long reclaiming his hair. Clanwolf says Robin Hood and Little John running through the forest. Oodle-lolly, that's what it is. Thank you so much, Clanwolf. Oodle-lolly. That's 100% what it was. I don't know. Shy, have you gotten into dark lining on your models yet? Shy says, I have food and I'm no longer cold, so good and well, you made. I'm doing all right. I got up a little bit early to stoke the fire, get everything going in the main part of the house, and now I'm out here where it's definitely cold, hanging out with you guys. Used to do a bit back in the 90s, 2000s. Well, I feel like I knew that about you. I got this roof loft based on a recommendation from a friend that does nail art. She's like, yeah, I use these Russian brushes. We got to order them on Amazon to get them in from. She's like, they can take like a month. So I ordered some, and they're Kolinsky Sable. They're good brushes, but look at this thing. This is a size 1, mind you. Size 1. Oh, now we're in focus. Never forget when you have a garbage camera. You gotta hold it down. There we go. That's the one, bro. Yeah, so this is I use this as my liner. I like because the lining brushes are so small that they don't have much belly for holding paint, but this being longer, I can get quite a bit of good scripting done. Kinda. Baz says love them brushes. Oh yeah. I'd never heard of them, but just a Pennsylvania boy, you know. All right, get a little bit of this dark lining color that I use. This is my dark purpley gray that I mix up every time I go to line something. And we're just going to reclaim this, his scalp line here. And yeah, Shai says, that's tiny for you. It really is. I don't normally mess too much with smaller brushes. I do kind of giggle a little bit when people start telling me about how you need this and you need that. Like, you don't need any of it. If you get into something and you find a style that works for you, well, then you can do that. People get tied up on, like, this is how you do a thing. No. It's a way to do a thing. For me, this kind of brush works. I can't tell you how many people would say you need a shorter bristle, like a miniature series brush. And those are good. I'm not dogging on them. But I think you should try everything. Try it all. Figure out what works for you, how you can use it, kind of thing. This paint is way too tacky. I also don't thin my paints very much. I use them like pot consistency. But, you know, if it's on a wet palette, it'll absorb some water. That's usually enough to get it going. But when I line, I like a little bit of water in it. Shai says, however, this halfling is looking the whole 9. Baz says, I usually paint with a size 4, then 2 for detail. Those brushes keep the tip perfect. Yeah, I paint almost exclusively with a size 6, and then I dump down to a size 2 or 1, depending, for my detail. Occasionally, I want to grab something like this, that though it's called a size 1, there's no standards. This size 1's as fine a 0 as you could find, I bet. Shai says you need to find what works for you and enjoy it. And that's a big part, right? That enjoy. Underscore that like 9 times. Was that in your chat the other day, Shai, where somebody was asking what's the easiest army to paint? I always tell people the things I do, how I tell them, are how I like to do them. Your mileage will vary. Yeah, exactly. The most important thing is you should approach it all with an open mind, and then do what you like. I think it's important to be open-minded enough to experience a new technique. You may immediately throw it out the door, but it's incredible how many different ways there are to do a thing that is considered, just to be widely understood to be done one way. Then you meet somebody that is incredibly talented and they're like, nah, just, don't fuss with it. Black magic. Okay. I'm not going to mess this up. Sorry for not chatting. This is super tight work we're doing. I'll fix the music in just a moment. Clayton says bog standard Necrons are probably the closest to being the easiest. The answer is usually Space Marines, but it's also often not Space Marines. I think the important thing is to find something that has a style that you enjoy and will want to pick up and will want to bring to life and can develop a narrative, because you're not running a race with painting an army. You are entering a long-term relationship that is very costly and that you need to want to enjoy painting. And I think that's the most important thing. If you don't dig on Space Marines, but you think, oh, I'll just do this because I think they're easy, like that's not the right question. Like, which one do you want to pick up? If you think, oh yeah, I'm going to paint Space Marines because, you know, I'm new and they're going to be easy, and that's the you know, the colloquial answer, yada yada yada. Okay, but they're like, man, I really love Tau, and just when I get better, I'll pick up a Tau army. No, go paint the Tau, you know. Yeah, Necron might be the easiest clan. Well, objectively, when you think about the techniques that go into it, sure, Necrons, you can do them super dirty, super quick. No problem there. But we could come up with ways to do all of them easy. And the reality is that if you looked at different skill levels, like how many different levels of complexity can you paint a Space Marine before you get to like a Darren Latham, you know? Trust me, what he's doing is not easy and not fast. Baz says, all my minis I just make up as I go along when I'm painting, and that's why I love Reaper. Reaper does a good job with a lot of things. I love their paints. I have a handful of them. They're definitely in the minority for my collection, and I think that's because they're not stocked by a lot of locals. There's one down in the city that I found, and I picked up a few of their colors. And I dig them. They're good. They're a little more thin than some of the other paints, but they're pigment rich. It works for me. Shy says to Clan Wolf, yeah, say that, but when you commit to Necrons, you're committing to doing a lot of them, a lot of green blending, and maybe even OSL if you want it looks best. But that's that point, Shy. You know, if you say, oh, I'm just going to do Marines, well, maybe you're just going to pick a color and put it down, and then you're going to put in some lenses and paint some guns, and you're done. That's an option. That's an option for every army. But do you want it to look good? Maybe you're just doing Space Marines, but do you want to do a blend on it? Are you going to do some weathering? Like, you can always do more. Baz says, on Insta, you will see my Christmas Reaper gifts to myself. Did you post up? I was scrolling. Did you post like 9 little holiday bags or something like that? I saw them in a stack with a comment like, yeah, I have a problem. And now I'm thinking maybe that was you. Janelle says, that's how I settled on the various Eldar factions. I like the look of them and got a lot of painting. Yeah, that's the thing. You got to dig the look on them. If you like cloaks, find something with cloaks. If you like armor, find something wearing a lot of shiny armor or doll armor, whatever you're into. It should be your army done your way, and the question shouldn't be, what's the simplest one to paint? There's no way to answer that. Because how many guys and gals are going to be out there in the wings saying things like, sir, miss, guess what? No, that's not easy to do because this, and this. Or what if you wanted to do that? There's too many questions. The focus on style. Pick a style that you're into. Each one of these armies, there's no surprise that they're designed to be interesting to different people. They're very stylistically different. The classic ones not so much, but as they add factions and modernize their armors, they're definitely pulling on different strings. Claymore says, I have a love-hate with Reaper minis. Mini-wise, I like that they're inexpensive, and if I want to practice something, like if I wanted to say, I think I want to get better at painting cloaks. I could go down to the hobby shop and I could buy up 6 little dwarven people with cloaks, different styles of riffle, or maybe even 6 of the same model. And I'm not going to break the bank. Reaper is very, very good for that. And their paints aren't inexpensive. They're as good as any paint on the market. And I think they're good at that as well. Let's get some browns on his jacket here. Though I don't believe I have any of them out right now. Yeah, everybody hang tight. I'm going to grab a couple browns from the table behind me so we can get his little jacket underway. Shai says, I love how classic the Reaper metals are. I don't think I'd personally use plastics unless maybe I was a DM and I needed cheap. Yeah, if you needed like a gaggle of a horde of orcs, they do a good job at that. And, you know, there's a number of people, I know when I got into Twitch, that said, I'd love to get into mini painting, but the models are so expensive. Well, if you can get a hold of Reaper in your area, there's no excuse. They, you know, $2, $3 for something pretty nice. For me, I paint a little more bespoke, so the metal Reapers are excellent, or I really enjoy Dark Sword miniature models. But Reaper has great products. The paint line is great. And, you know, they're also really helpful to the community. They help support a ton of streamers. And so I support them for that as well. Yeah, give me just a couple seconds to grab a few browns here. I think we need some red browns and some neutral browns. Like this Battlefield brown. Bloodstone, Blood Tracker. These are good. Alright, I've returned. Janelle says, the complexity of the paint job is solely up to you, the painter. Your army does not have to look just as someone else's, 100%. Cliff says, the plastic Reaper minis actually have a reaction to my primary choice for primer. Yeah, that PVA or PVC, I forget what it is. But that plastic, you can't rattle can it. Not all of it, but that's true of some games. You want to test or find out what it is for you get like some of the board game minis too. Shai says only because the plastics are a pain to clean up. They can be. If Reaper was to make their plastic hard enough, then you could scrape it. It'll be all over like a fat kid on cake. You'd be all over that stuff, huh? Baz says the customer service is the best I've ever experienced. They do a good job, for sure. Shai says, yeah, customer service is bulletproof. Janelle says Reaper Black are a lot better. They do. They have different, like the Bones was introduced to be a budget solution. Reaper's always had high quality stuff. Like Shai mentioned earlier, they have a pewter line. They have a, we'll call it metal. It's like a white metal mixture. It's not really pewter anymore. Then Mr. Shai says, yeah, I'm sponsored by them. I'm super familiar. Oh, so Shai, you paid for, huh? Okay. Over here with his opinion. Beth says, I was lucky I bought a mini with 2 of the same arm. Within 2 days, I had a new mini at my door, and that's nice. That's what you're after. Unlike a company that maybe makes fancy brushes that are supposed to be the best brush they've ever made. They reinvented the brush, and their customer service is garbage. Just the hottest garbage. I've had just not one person that's had an issue has had anything to say other than just the negative. Shai says, Chris, I'm glad you know that pewter and white metal aren't the same. I do know that. And at Janelle, the sound, that sounds a lot like Shade. So I'll leave you to it. Shy, watch yourself. See, these two browns are very close tonally, but for me, I'm always going to pick this one over this one because I like the vibrancy. Like, they're both kind of muted, but I don't like muted browns. I like them to have some pigment to them. If they're too desaturated, or like umbral umber and me don't really get along for that reason. Just teasing. Some of this down here. We need. When I don't own a lot of Games Workshop paints, but when they refreshed their line, they pretty much bought out like the old paints that were on people's racks. They forced like the local shops to all totally refresh, and the one place had a ton of like their airbrush line that they just threw into a bargain bin for $1.75, $2, and I love this Baylor Brown. I bought like a stack of them. I'll just take all of those. I think it's a really good color. That and Rhinoxide. Oh, these two with the dramas. Janelle says, I love your work, Shy. Shy says, it'll be interesting to see how many people are still sponsored by Reaper next year, though. I do get your point. So it's a good thing, and we can talk about that later. Them offering a lot of sponsorships was a good move for them, but I definitely don't think everyone who took the deal actually cares about it. Well, but that's not what they're buying, Shy. They're not buying your care. They are paying for your giveaways. They are paying for your hosting. They're paying for this conversation. That's what they're buying. Baz says, next year I hope to stream more. The general hobby life experience with my 3D printers has been used. All right, let's get the rest of this paint out and actually start painting this thing. Shade color. This color I'm going to be working with here is a mix of P3's Bloodstone. It's a very red brown, and this is Sanguine Base. It is very visibly my favorite color. Get made it out of this pot constantly. It's a very purpley red. Shai says, like in the last 3 months, every single mini fan who watches Twitch is now aware of Reaper. They are very clever people. Another reason I love them and support them. I love and support all of that idea. I also love and support the idea that there's other companies out there that potentially make a better product and should see value in the fact that I'd rather work with them. Janelle says, yep, I did Bones 3 and 4, and all the hype to get me, or all the hype got me. To do 5, I was going to pass on 5. I got you. I have a moral stance against engaging whatsoever in Kickstarters. going to lay this color down here. This is just a placeholder color on the wood. And I want to add something a little more dynamic. So we're going to go in with just this purpley red color. And then I will edge out the wood grain with something a little more natural. He is a fantasy model after all, and I think, what kind of tree did he actually get this from? And this will also tie a little bit of the colors of his leather jacket into his, there's that old concept that if you use a color somewhere in your work, you should use it everywhere. Doesn't truly mean everywhere, but it should be all over the model. Shouldn't just be like in the base. Closer to his hand here. Baz says, I won't support Games Workshop until I understand their pricing model. It's not hard to understand, Baz, but it is hard to comprehend. Shai says, yeah, I didn't back the Kickstarter because I don't back Kickstarters in general. And Shai says, not necessarily morally, it's just not a platform I really care for. I backed it once and wasn't very satisfied. It wasn't a very satisfying way to buy a product, but according to everyone I moaned at, it was normal. Now, it's just that accepted thing. I don't like the idea that, for example, I'm somebody that doesn't know anything about producing a board game, but maybe I have a really cool concept and I want to say, oh, hey everybody, this is a really cool idea and here's some drawings of what it could be in the future. And everybody gives me a gob of money to flush out my idea. I don't like it. I don't like it. And the horror stories are there for a reason. Front page of Kickstarter ought to read Buyer Beware. Alright, let's try and get some pepper back in this hair. Especially in this little recess. Just push that paint up in there. We're kind of erasing it from one area to heighten it in another. Just as par for the course. Derelict comes in, good morning. I'm just a tight Yorkshire man. There you go. DC says, on the same Kickstarter, always reminded me of early access games on stream. Early access is an excellent. And I'll think about it more because I may just be jumping the gun here, but I think it's a great line to draw there. I don't do that either. It better be something I am super, super into. And I'm gonna perceive that I'm saving money if I get into an early access, and it's even at that, it's been years. Give me just a second to get all these lines in here. What do we think? Derelict comes in. We got Shy saying to Baz, I grew up in Derby. We are probably the same kind of careful with a cash. Derelict says, I've only bagged 3 things on Kickstarter: the Dungeons and Dogies, Bargain Quest second printing, and Horizon Zero Dawn board game. Janelle says, yeah, luckily Reaper is great with communication. A company like Reaper through Kickstarter lacks 100% of the concern as like a smaller company does, to me at least. Like, Reaper's going to produce you a fine product. They're not going to fail you. What they're doing is they have a concept for a line. They don't invest a ton of money into it without knowing what, like, they want to test the waters, right? They want to tip their toe in before they know what's going on out there. And so they might say, like, oh, this is a fun line, and we could do like a limited release, and that would be very little concern. So let's just do that as the Kickstarter. Let's do a limited release, and we'll see how it goes. And if it goes well, it doesn't cost them much to take a designer that they're already paying and have them draw up some more work, and so then there's your stretch goals. Boom. It's just concept. And they go from there and see how well it does, and then they can better relate what they're going to do in that style in the future. Where were we? Yep, Shy says, the only reason I'm willing to pay G-Dub prices is because I like the products. But I do everything I can to pay less than Games Workshop expects me to. Yeah, they're very rough with their expenses. I'm not justifying what they charge at all. I'm just saying, like, it's very obvious why they do what they do. Now says, I'm all about the secondhand market when I can. Yeah. Derelict says, I've only purchased early access titles. Or I have purchased early access titles, but only when the game is already worth it at the price and in time. That way I can only, stagnate or go up. Shy says, I play the system. I do the same with Magic the Gathering. I won't give a penny to WotC directly. I get everything through secondary market. DC says, at Shy and Baz, LOL, I'm a Scotsman, so I think I might have you both on the being tight. Look, you know about rural Pennsylvania boys. I think it's just a personality thing more so about where you're from. Janelle says, I refuse to buy all the WotC special crap. If I like something, I'll find another way to trade. Shy says, I guess I wouldn't say I'm tight per se. I will spend money. I just want to get the value for it. Yeah, I tend to work on my things and repair them and take care of them. But when I buy something, I tend to buy something nice and that I can maintain. So I get that. Like, if I'm going to come off some money, it's going to be differently. Janelle's off to work. Have a great day. You have a great day. I don't know what color I want to do this lapel. I don't know. So I think a little more red could be nice, but I do not like the purple. I like purple tones. I'm just grabbing that red brown and laying it down, and then I'm grabbing a little more of this purple, and we're just going to wet on wet. Just going to do something nice right there. But yeah, Reaper's a great company that makes a great product. And I get what they're doing strategically with the community. My only concern personally is that everybody's working on them. Everybody's working with them. So I don't know. Oh yeah, that's why he's wiggling. His little foot needs I must have wiggled it loose when I put him on this grip as opposed to the little cork. Let's get some more purple in here. Clanwolf says, wet on wet, lewd. Yeah, man, that's Bob Ross style right there. Bob did the wet on wet. Oil paintings used to take forever to do. Not used to, but in general, oil painting takes a long time to layer up. And Bob would paint the whole canvas white. And that's what made him so fast. I don't know if he was the one that made that technique, but he definitely made it popular. The idea, Clan Wolf, is that you put the paint down wet, and then you grab the next color that you would traditionally, like classically layer, and you lay it down on top of it, and they kind of marry. And they generate like a color that's so new, it's almost impossible to mix to that degree. So you get some natural blends with very, very, very little work. And not that I'm a lazy painter, but I do like things that save me on work. That's how I got the vest to look the way that it does. His waistcoat. And then perhaps while we're still even a little bit wet, let me grab some of this here. Let's give it a little highlight here. Am I still? Sorry guys. I will get to chat here in just a second. I just want to get some of these colors down here before things, before they start to dry. Grab that next color down here. And then that in the middle we've got that more of that purple. We'll just layer that in here. And then let them all dry together. Pack a little bit down in here. A little bit of that shadow will get even a little bit darker, huh? A little bit darker. Shai says, yeah, I do think streamers maybe need to talk a bit more and make sure not everyone is painting the same stuff at the same time. I did my Santa the day after I got it because I knew everyone and their dog would be painting at Christmas week to give away. Yup. Derelict says Bob was good. Bob was good people. I wish I could have met him. Yes. I'm sorry for struggling so much to read such a well-structured sentence there, buddy. That's on me, not you. A little bit of water here. Yeah, we flowing. Now, let's see what we have here. Sorry for bumping the camera. Draw that line. Get in here just a little bit. It's kind of incredible how just doing something like this brings your model into focus, crisps it up. I do not love how wonky this hand is. It bugs me. Derelict says, Lamau. I know what you're saying. LMAO. Never heard someone call an individual people. No, I have. I absolutely get it. But at 6:40 in the morning, I am failing to read English well. And that's not on you. That is on me. Good people is what I would call somebody right before I departed, and like if I was trying to introduce two people. Like, hey, you need to reach out to so and so, they're good people. I get it. But my freaking brain broke. Alright. How bad is this backpack? Is it bad? Seems bad. I kind of like the yellow tones, but I don't know. I don't know. Shai says, I'm a fan of it. It's an American thing, but I enjoy it a lot. Oh, you enjoy it a lot even though it's an American thing? What, Shai? I'm going to talk about this. Right after I get back with my heavy-bodied acrylics. Don't tell Jimmy. Actually, I've thought about it. Tell him. Tell him that's what we're using in here. Let him know that we use the finest heavy-bodied paints that your money can buy. Yell it from the the mountaintops. I almost exclusively use heavy bodies when I'm trying to blend browns. And in fact, the ones that I don't use are very similar. Like my bloodstone and this burnt sienna. But I find that the heavy bodies glaze a lot better. Derelict says, I like it too, not constantly, but only when I call somebody a good person. DC says, the yellow tones look good. Yeah. Yep. We're going to see what we can do with that. I want to stick with that, but I want to glaze this bag in so it has a different tone than the rest of it. And then maybe, I think I want to take it, darken it a bit. So I'm going to bring in a little more umber into my yellow. So if I have a raw sienna out here, I'm going to grab a burnt umber, like a nice chocolatey tone, and we're going to mix those up and make a nice darker color. And the reason for that is I want to stipple in some texture, and I need it to be darker than the yellow because I'm going to bring in that ochre color, I guess is what you would say. So let's see what we can't do here. So back to that wet on wet conversation we were just having. Just lay these colors down. That's our shadow color. I'm just going to grab some of our highlight, which is just the sienna. We'll just dabble that in where it makes sense. Hopefully I don't agitate the fact that that pin is loose. Back to our shadow color. You know what though? I have so much purple in my other paints. We need to get some purple in there. Let's see how that looks. I want it to... Yeah, that's better. Take my own advice and get my... start using the colors everywhere. That's good. Alright. Very quickly, I'm going to switch over to my finer brush. My Series 7 size 2 isn't exactly super fine, but it does good work. You just pick out the folds, start to define them a little bit. Shy says, I also like saying my cat thinks it's people when it does people things. Shy says, Baggins. Good God. Glaze the Baggins. That's what I heard. You're glazing the Baggins. You're glazing the Baggins out of my Gilberts right now. Shy, have we had our conversation about puns? Has it happened? Have I outed myself in that respect? Hope something didn't blow up. My phone just got a bunch of news notifications. Here we're just taking a shadow tone and I'm kind of packing it into these little wrinkles in the bag along this underset here. And initially, I think it's good to just be a little sloppy with it. Like it shouldn't make all the sense. I think it goes faster when you paint like that too. Like if you're not too concerned about being super clean with it and painting inside the lines the whole time, then you grab your highlight color and you're like, oh, I'll just put a little dabble of that in there. And there you're more specific. But honestly, I think getting used to not caring as much has helped me a ton with my painting. Meanwhile, a wandering Shy with a critical eye says to himself, I can tell. To the not caring part. Derelict says, uh-oh. Glaze the Baggins. What are we saying uh-oh to? What? I was rambling for a while. DC says, I'm too much of a perfectionist to not care about my painting. It's not like don't care in the end, but the thing is, these lower layers, like they don't define the end of your model. So it's the idea of worrying less about the final product when all you're doing is sketching in where the colors are going to go. I think it's an important thing to let go of. With a little bit of practice, you get to be more deliberate. Like, for sure, there are things I should be more deliberate with as I'm painting. But it's hard to find how it works until you get a little sloppy with it. And the realization that you can probably paint your mini 5 or 6 times before it actually needs to be stripped is also very helpful. Like, you haven't actually messed anything up. Just paint over it a little bit. And with leathers, it's nice because, for example, I homogenized like 4 different colors in different layers and built it up. And now I have this nice dynamic set of browns. And here at the end, we're coming in with that nice yellow. We're bringing it back in, but only where it makes sense. Only where it maybe has worn the most. Got quite a bit more coverage, quite a bit more opacity to it. And because it's got the purples and reds and neutral browns in there, the bag looks a lot more natural, even if it is in a fantasy kind of way. That's one thing Shy put brilliantly, one of the first conversations we ever had, which is like the rule of cool. It's absolutely a thing, and it should be a thing, but also it needs to be a naturally cool thing, or it's going to mess with your eyes. I was like, that is fucking brilliant. a word you shouldn't say. But it is. It is brilliant. It is absolutely a good thing. And there you have it. Cello backpack. And now if we take that dark tone with maybe even a little bit more of this purple. Get some of that purple out. That's good. I'm even going to grab a little bit of my liner, put it in there. Nice rich purple tone. Glaze it back just slightly. Well, maybe a little bit more. Continue that. The news notification on your phone. Yeah. DC says, I'm too much of a perfectionist not to care. Clem says, I'm back now on PC. I'm back and better than ever. Good to have you. DC says, I'm super sloppy when applying base coats. After that, I seem to go super anal. Yeah, it happens, right? You got to let it go. You got to let it go. Derek says, yeah, don't say brilliant. I'll try not to. All right, so we got this glazed back just a little bit. And the fact that I'm using the heavy-bodied acrylics helps out a bit. There's some opaque paint in here too, but now we can just grab these little areas. Kind of define the edges around the satchel a bit. And here we'll be making some thicker kind of lines because we're not actually doing line work. Ooh, I think I want to get this too. A little bit of that. Just kind of stipple this in. Even though it's glazed back, it's still going to be a little bit nice here. Start to define these little straps a little bit. Stipple into this ripple here. Kind of build it back a little bit. Same thing over here. The first time I saw the altar artists tapping their cards, I was like, I tap my models all the time. The first time you got a bunch of glazes on there and you jack it up, you'd be like, oh no. Alright, and then here, just use the shadow to kind of block in the bottom here where it's super dark. Nobody needs to be looking back there. Stay out of it. What do we have up here? Just a little bit of... Bear with me, guys. I'm just going to get in here and do this real quick. I don't think I realized that I missed that spot before. Just grab, but that's okay. Just grab our next color that's still on the palette. And start to define it back. And that's no thing. It's good to go. See here. We'll just come back through now, as you always must, and re-highlight your finest edges. And so all these lower lips, We're going to get just a little bit extra. Maybe out here in the middle we'll just stipple in a little bit of this. This is actually Baylor Brown. Bring it up a little. Along this ridge, possibly. How about over here? A little bit more. Clintwell says LOL. What do we have here? I think of Ron Weasley. What about Ron Weasley? We still sold on the green bedroll? It's about that time to fix it up. I think I have a good green. Yeah, deep green. This will be good. Derek says, at Nomad, read the message above. Yeah, don't say brilliant. I honestly think of old Guinness commercials when somebody says brilliant. I think of Ron Weasley. Okay. That's on me. Should have read up. Tartan. There's not enough room for me to put any tartan on that thing. What are you going to do? Put a square on each end and call it done? That's hilarious. I do want to learn how to paint tartan. Were you here when I started to try to practice the tartan? I never took it anywhere, but I did start to grid off a piece. I mean, obviously there would be hours and hours of defining these little squares, but there's like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was going to do like 3 different greens, 3 different blues. I had an idea for some yellows as well, like line work. But you have to be a higher scale to really detail out a tartan. And I think that might be, like, I'm going to start on something like that, and once I get that in my head, then we can step down. Clanwolf in here stirring the pot says, I agree with Derek. There ain't gonna be no tartan on this thing. It's too small. There's not enough. Like, if the bedroll ran the whole distance, I could get down on that, but I can't do it when it's just like the edges of it's all the end roll. It won't work. Let's darken this thing back a bit. A little bit more of this. I do like that green that we had before, but I want to build it up from here. Nice blue-green to kind of blend him in with the surroundings. And then just like before we were talking about it, while we're still wet, just grab our brighter tone. Start the highlights now. This is one of my things that I do to speed up when I'm painting. Is I don't do my base coat is my first shadow and highlight. A lot of times for me it works, and it's a lot easier than trying to labor over layer after layer and let them dry and all that. go. DC says, I saw a bust that Journeyman Miniatures did on Instagram. I saw that too. They're incredible, huh? That red and blue with the fabric. But again, that's a scale up. This guy's my thumb. Which I wouldn't be opposed to trying across the bedroll on a model this size, but you know, this just being the tips of it, I don't see that. It's gonna look poopy. Daniel DK, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for the follow. What do you think? This is coming out a little bit better now. I think that pale green had to go. I still like the tone it was given. Take us up just another punch. Welcome, Danny. Yeah, what brings you in today? Bring these highlights up just a little bit more. I dig that too. Clan Wolf, earlier you asked if I slept. Are you up for the day or are you still running on last night? If you missed Chris's stream, you can check out his YouTube for what you missed. I need to upload some more to that. That's a fantastic point. I got yesterday and today. That was a good idea, I think, on your behalf. I like that a lot. I think the green looks really nice next to the yellow as well. Grab some of this darker tone. Try and get some contrast in this little tiny ripple that's up here. It's so tiny to see where the contrast would be. There he is. I'm actually wearing my glasses today. That's partly how you know. Clan Wolf says, I'm up for the day. I'm usually up by 4 due to hardwired internal clock. Yeah. Getting up at 5 so often, I end up doing that on the weekends too. Just, yeah, this is what it is now. Alright, I'm just going to stipple this in. We're on camera, we're reading. Need to get a bigger camera. go. Where we at here? AJ's Wargaming. Well, how are you today? As I smack the camera. Sorry about that. I use a webcam, and it does a pretty good job, but like only when it's used within its limitations. As it turns out, I gotta have that thing right here. How are you today, AJ? Paint this back a little. His little foot needs a dabble of glue. What did I do with it? I had it just yesterday because it was crunched loose when I was trying to put them on here. AJ says, good morning! Somehow my channel wasn't auto-hosting you, so I had to tell it to manually host. Well, I appreciate both the thought and the action. Matt, thank you so much, man. How was your day? I don't know what time it is for you, but I do know it's very early for me. I don't know if anybody here uses this catalyst spray, but I love it. I also never spray it. It just says, good, just woke up, heading to work for a big meeting. Ooh, hopefully a good big meeting. AJ is good people, Clan Wolf. But I want my channel always supporting other creators I love. I do appreciate that very much. Like the aerosol catalyst spray I get from woodworking stores. Okay. Yeah, it's good. It's a good product to have on hand. I like it because one of the, like, if you want to look at one of the negative sides to something like this, it makes the glue more brittle, but it dries it quickly. So for me, when I'm pinning things or just trying to put something on a base temporarily, I make sure I use a very smaller amount of glue, but I always hit it with that because then I can get it to come off. And I don't use plastic glue. I'll use a super glue because it won't bond to the plastic. If I'm trying to put something on permanently, then I get in there with the plastic glue and it'll melt the plastics together. AJ says, Clan Wolf, but I don't use it on painted minis, only unpainted. Yeah, I do the same when attaching to plinths. It's a good, thing to be cognizant of. I mean, truthfully, if you're trying to make something go forever, you're going to put a proper pin in it and, oh my God. I'm going to mount him on something nicer. That's it. He's going to set. This keeps falling and it's going to break my heart if it chips. Yeah, AJ says dropping it on like I do keeps the paint safe. It does. And it also, truthfully, not to say cheap, but I don't like wasting my product as much. So doing it that way kind of saves on that as well. Golem Gandhi looking good. Thank you, AJ. We fixed up his hair today. We tightened up his jacket a bit today. And, oops. Yeah, we got the leather tones on his lapel correct. I fixed up his pants and his legs and his backpack. And truthfully, I think we're round and about done. Golem Gandhi. Yeah, it is, you were the one that said that. It stuck with me because he's kind of like the son of the first man. And the more you look at him, the more you see different things in it. He's a really cool dude. Yeah, I'd say our little Hobbit here is getting very close to done. I want to do something different on these little leather straps and paint in his buckles. And I'm going to pick out some more details in his hair. And his eyes are blotched in, but I want to do actual eyeballs. And I would also like to do the hairs on his feet, but I don't know that I think gray will look good on his feet hair. So that's complicated for me. Oh my god, I was just gonna point hot little pack straps. Point out the little pack straps. And body hair goes gray last. That's good. So go with black or dark gray. That's a AJ. You're preaching right now. I'm gonna hold off because a little bit of that catalyst did come up on the paint, so I don't want to get my brush on that. But yeah, I do not like how wonky this hand is. It's bugging me. So that might get adjusted as well. And I also want to deal with the little pack straps here. Yeah, we got to differentiate a couple things. Which will give me a fine project here for the remaining few moments of our stream. Let's have a peek here. This is just a heavy-bodied raw sienna, which I really enjoy. Nice rich pigments, but also thin. So as it goes on, I can kind of leave some of that lower coat to shine through. Add some intrigue to the model. Leather, I think it looks good layered up like that. Pepsi, thank you so much. Making the corgi wiggle. Welcome, welcome. Pardon my my drinking here. I've eaten too much paint today. Baravaldi. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Welcome. And I feel you, AJ. You're just spotting stuff because, especially with, I mean, look at how small he is. Like, he's a tiny little dude, and he's got a ton of details. So, you spotting that was good. We're just on the same page. I think I'm going to pack a little more shadow into this transition as well. Probably not pointed out with my brush loaded with paint. Silliness on my part. But yeah. How do you like those arm plinths? I see people use them, but never see them grabbing the arms. So, this arm here, Robin Goodfellow 1, welcome, welcome. I paint 28 mil figures, same stuff. So this arm can be different sizes, and the smaller one would probably be perfect. We got Orthober coming in with a big old party of 38. Look out, look out. How is everybody coming in here today? Hope you're all doing well. We got a raid.
I'm Diana of Themyscira.
Oh, Ink's in the building. We just got a question about this grip that I'm using. So the idea of this arm is that you can, if you pinch the bottom of it, you can put your hand on it. And this is not unique to this company. There's a lot of companies that make them. So sometimes it's nice to be able to get a hold of something like this to come in. And if you have the bad shakes, it's something that can help you do this. For me, I find gripping my hands together helps. Interlacing my little fingers helps. There's a number of things you can do to make things go smoother. All these fun and lovely people coming in from this raid here with Orthober. We got Trader Legions, we got Revless, Clanwolf is in the building, we got Vanny Bunny, everybody hanging out. How are you guys this morning? What were you working on? Was it nearly as cool as this little Hobbit's is? I hope so. AJ says, yeah, I ground the heels of my hands. Yeah, everybody, if you paint for a while, you have a solution to to keeping yourself steady, and it's no two people can do the same process. Or just refining, dark lining, getting this little hobbit to where he needs to be. Revla says sculpting a bust. Oh, that's sweet. Orthoba says got 2 wonderful raids from Jan and 19 Silent. Keep this raid party a rolling. Wow, you worked on the Matriarch Priestess. That's slick. We're just refining this backpack little by little. I never get in a big hurry with the leathers. Start to define these straps as something else. That's fun though, working on something dynamic like that, Orthober. AJ says train keeps rolling all night long. Yes, the raid train cannot be stopped. It will not be stopped. Just picks up steam. There we have it. That's something else to look at, right? Revless with a follow. Welcome. Is that the most comfortable miniature handle so far? This one? I think they're all different and they just depend on what you're doing. I have this model pinned so the cork makes a lot of sense. You just came over, I don't know if you did come over, but you're coming in here with an Orthober raid and he makes a fantastic grip as well. I have a kind of a bigger paw and something like this is good for my hand. Nice big grip that you can hold on to. Like I was saying earlier, like sometimes interlacing your pinkies can help out a lot, and a bigger grip to get a hold of prevents your fatigue. Like if you're doing like fine details as much. Man, every time I pick this guy up, I really want to dive into his armor some more and clean up his fur. I'm very excited about this guy. But yeah, I like a lot of different grips. The Orthober one is great. This little, I can tell you that this one's probably maybe the Game Envy one is the most expensive if you load it out. But yeah, this one's good. I think a number of people have great solutions. And it might just depend on what you're doing with your models. Do you pin them? Are you using a base? Are you using the sticky tack? Or just going to get this line drawn here. So Revla says, if I'm sculpting something, I put the sculpt on a vise. Yeah, they have those metal ones with the pins. AJ says, I use pop caps and I paint 24 of them at a time, sometimes on tabletop when space is a premium. The bottle cap system is nice. There's a couple grips that actually accept those. I tend to magnetize, and pinning before basing is nice. Here, I'm just going to do that same thing that I do every time I'm painting my leathers. And actually, when I paint most things, I just wet blend. So while this paint is still wet, I'm just going to stipple our shadow color in there. And we'll even pack that shadow color up in here too, because it ain't no thing. There you go. Blend it out a little bit. Go back to the highlight color, selectively lay it where it needs to go, and feather that transition. Ooh, No, you didn't. No, you didn't just make that mistake. Excuse me, I just ate some paint. I gotta rinse that out.
I got a vise with a ball joint from China. There's some of those little vices that are like a puck, and they've got like a waffle design in them, or like holes everywhere, different millimeter marks, and you can like put your pins in and then stretch it. Is that the kind of thing you guys are talking about? I have one. I didn't enjoy using it, but that doesn't not to detract from you liking it. I know they're popular. Alright, since I have a lot of red in my other portions of the model, I've got a rule about this. If I have a color somewhere, I use it everywhere. So we'll get some red in this strap as well. Such a bittersweet thing to start rounding out a model like this. It's like, oh, we're starting to hit the end, but also all good travels must come to an end, huh? Oh, this is a big... Okay, Revlis, I'm sorry. Yeah. That's on me. Let's see, what color should I do his little buttons? 726, we should probably be thinking about who we want to go visit. Pass this party on. Little details like this can make all the difference, huh? I don't know, does that have enough pop? Clanwolf says got to work soon. Well, yeah, I gotta get, this will give me about 40 minutes to get myself together for work, and then I gotta get out the door. Yeah, I gotta clean up this little splotch on his skin. You can see that little dot there. I wonder if that can be done right now. Let's have a look. Let's see what kind of tone I'm working with here. Is that enough? Wouldn't that be something if it was? No. We need the redder tone. That's over here. More of that same too bright. But now I think we can take that back. Feather it just a little bit. Does that look alright? I don't know. A little bit more of this green. What happens when you mix your paints, huh? I'll bring a little bit of this over here then. Bring a little bit of that red back into his cheek. Little snoot. All right, we got to settle on what we're going to do for his eyes. Man, I'm starting to come together. Revla says, got the Vice since July, and I did not break any yet. Okay. Can I look at Pick the Vice? Absolutely, if you'd like. We'll have a quick look at that, and then... Yeah, it's already 7:30. Get my palette here. Yeah, link that thing up. Oh, I think your link's broke. Or maybe I'm just in my view here. It didn't look like it linked up. Yeah, that link's broke, buddy. Right, let's see who we got online here. Oh, Daniel's on. We're gonna go raid Daniel. That's how that's gonna go. Did you get us a working link? There we go, to the store. Oh, that's very from... Oh, that's very cool for the with the ball joint. Okay. That could be really useful. I'm going to save that link. All right, everybody. We're going to go raid Daniel. Let's see what he's working on. He is a wonderfully beautiful person. Oh, my God. I dropped him again. Thank you for stopping in. It's about $10 US. Okay. With the rubber padding stink. Okay. Yeah, today we chatted a bit. We got over a little bit more of the Hobbit here. Worked on his leathers. Rounded out his face. Got his feet pretty much everywhere except for the hair. I got to fix a little bit of this wonk in his hand. I might come in with a file here and then I'll repaint. That shouldn't be a big deal at all. His hair is in a much better place. Got it quite a bit more dynamic. We also lined the face, which really brings it into focus. And once the eyes come in, it'll be truly, truly done. The bedroll's looking a lot better. His backpack is looking a lot more natural. And I brought a little bit of life into his walking staff. But yes, let's take it over here to Daniel. We'll keep this raid trainer running. And everybody have a good weekend. Do something different.